Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the brand new Spark cards coming tomorrow here in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 30,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day. That's a consistent daily MyTEAM content. Without further ado, tomorrow's Spark drop is pretty mid. Let's be completely honest. Isaiah Thomas is 6'1". Mugsy Bogues is 5'3". I mean, yeah, okay. And then Bogdanovich, I mean, semi-interesting-ish, I guess, kind of. We'll talk about him. Probably not, though. Cat is by far the most interesting card here, realistically. He'll probably be pretty good. And then Roy Hibert is going to be interesting-ish, potentially, but probably not great because his release is pretty ugly. He is 7'2" at least, so there is at least a height factor there with that Hibert card that could make him interesting. As a whole, I mean, you go through here and look through this, and basically it says, I mean, it seems like everybody's it's kind of mid. I kind of agree. I mean, this isn't the worst Spark drop they've done yet, but it's certainly not the best. Karl-Anthony Towns will probably be pretty good at the power forward position. Roy Hibert has potential to be good at center, quite simply because he's 7'2", and basically only because he's 7'2". And then, I mean, let's be completely honest. The rest of these cards don't exactly excite anybody, I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong, unless you are specifically, I mean, if you're an old head and you watched Isaiah Thomas on the Pistons, you were growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, you might be a big fan of this card. But otherwise, I think for the majority of the time, I mean, the majority of the player base is probably below 30 years old or so. Most of the people who play my team, and that means most of them were like barely born when Isaiah Thomas was at his peak, realistically, or not born, like me and a lot of other people who play this game. So I just, and then that's not, Isaiah Thomas is an absolute NBA legend, but in terms of the card itself being exciting in my team, absolutely not. Mugsy Bogues is only exciting because he's a troll card. I will say that. There is kind of an entertainment value to a 5'3" point guard. I will be doing gameplay with Mugsy tomorrow for sure, just for the fun factor of just, why not use a 5'3" point guard who I'm sure they're going to soup to the gills stat and badge wise. So he's kind of a meme card, and he'll be kind of fun just because of that. Bogdanovich is basically a nothing card. We'll talk about him in a sec, but he's not going to excite anybody. And then Cat and Roy Hibert are, like I said, the two most interesting. So let's break down what each of these cards are probably going to look like individually. Start with Cat. He's the most interesting one. Cat's going to be a better version of his Opal. In all likelihood, I can almost guarantee we're not going to see any changed releases tomorrow, which is obviously not super ideal. I can hope we get a changed release, for example, on a guy like Cat. But basically what you're probably looking at is this Cat card, but with maybe MJ dribble style instead of Pro. Slightly better escape, and hopefully a better behind the back, better fade maybe. I don't know. Basic fade actually isn't that bad. It's just not a fade you see very much, but it actually isn't horrible. So I don't know. He'll be a great shooter. He'll have good speed. He'll be a solid dunker, pretty good. He'll have great defense. I mean, he'll probably have very solid defensive badges, too. He had half anchor, brick wall, movable enforcer, post lockdown, rebound chaser, box out beast on his Opal. So he'll have all of those, plus a bunch of other probably perimeter hoffs. He already had gold handles for days. Maybe he gets half handles for days. If he gets good sigs and half handles for days, that's pretty interesting. His dunking will definitely be good. His shooting badges will be basically every shooting badge, as was already the case in the Opal. The problem with this card is that his release is just not that great. Although on very quick instead of quick, it will be a bit better, which is what it will be. It's not horrible. It is decently quick. It's just ugly. Y'all will see what I'm talking about tomorrow when I do gameplay on him. He won't be bad at all. He'll probably be better than that Boogie card that came out last week. And I think, honestly, because of his release, he might even be better than KG as well, depending on what they make his SIGs look like. Because his release is going to be faster than KG's, even if it's still not the best release in the game or anything like that. But as a whole, I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns will probably be pretty good. He's the most exciting card tomorrow by a pretty significant margin, in my opinion. And hopefully he is good, because he is the only one that really has potential, I think, to make a lot of squats. Now, what I will say, Roy Hibert's Pink Diamond that came out in January, 7'2" with a 7'6" wingspan, had a 72 3-ball, 81 speed. So you are probably looking at a 7'2" big, 7'6" wingspan with near 90 speed and 80-ish 3-ball. And then 95 standing and 90 driving dunk in all likelihood. Defensively, he will be elite on the interior and capable on the perimeter. He already has all the key and defensive hoffs on the interior plus interceptor, basically, on a Pink Diamond. So you're going to see a much more complete card, better shooting badges, better playmaking badges, at least by slight margins on both of those. And then more complete defense, more improved defense, and the finishing is already good, but it will likely be great. The thing that this card provides is size. Now, if he gets some upgraded SIGs and a changed release, he could be really good. But the Brook Lopez base is absolutely hideous. So even if they give him Brook Lopez base on very quick, I could really see this card being a big disappointment because because his release is just super duper ugly. Because outside of that, I mean, this Vince Carter upper is not bad. If they were to change the base on this card, he's a really interesting 7'2" big, especially as a free card. So I would say Roy Hibbert's definitely a guy who has the potential to be interesting, but realistically, without a changed release, will likely be semi-limited. Even if he does have good speed, he's a capable 3-ball shooter and a great dunker and defender, which he will be. I think all of those things will be true, honestly. Like he's going to be better than this pink. This pink diamond came out months ago. He's going to be way, way better than this card. And this card, I mean, on paper, stat and badge-wise, is not horrifically awful for a 7'2" big. It's just animations. The release was horrific, and if it is still this release, even on very quick, you're, I think, still limited by the release a good amount, and it will keep him from being a top-tier option at the center position, unfortunately, because I think he could be okay. The fact he can play power forward is interesting exclusively for height reasons. But with the way his release will be, there will be no reason whatsoever to use him at power forward. I think he'll be center or bust, and realistically, I'm not sure he'll be that great just because of there being some pretty good free centers and then also the release being so mediocre. Isaiah Thomas. We'll touch on him briefly. Isaiah hasn't had a card since his Diamond, which is this dynamic duo card. I mean, even this Diamond had freaking 90-somewhat, an 85 3-ball, 97 speed and excel, and really good perimeter badges. But this card also came out months ago. You're going to get a much, much better card. Obviously, insane playmaking badges, but a bunch of Hoff defense, bunch of Hoff shooting badges, and honestly, probably good finishing as well. I know he doesn't have any finishing right here, but I would think Dark Matter Isaiah Thomas is going to be able to dunk the ball, right? Like, probably, at least. I would hope, at least, he's got like an 85 or a 90 driving dunk. Will he? I could see it being a 70, 75, and if that's the case, that 100% hurts him even more, considering, again, he's only 6'1" with a 6'4" wingspan, but he could be good. I could see a world in which this Isaiah Thomas is a decent card, at least for a 6'1" point guard. But again, that is a big qualifier when you say for a 6'1" point guard. Definitely not a card I expect to be elite. Bogdanovic, I think he is 6'6", 6'7" or so. 6'5", never mind, 6'11" wingspan. I remember using this card, and I remember actually liking his release, but this card also came out in February, and he wasn't really all that great. He'll have great shooting badges and solid playmaking. Defensively and as a finisher will probably be okay. 90 driving dunk, I would assume, isn't out of the question at all, considering he had 80 on his Amethyst, so he'll be pretty athletic. The question for me is going to be defense. His defense is really bad in this card. Obviously, he'll have solid defense because nobody gets horrific defense at this point in the year, but will it be good enough to where he can compete? I don't really know, and again, he's only 6'5", at a pretty populated position being the shooting guard spot. So, again, he's a guy who just realistically doesn't, I don't think, have a very high likelihood of being great. And then Mugsy Bogues is obviously one of the biggest troll cards in the game. Although I will say this, his stats will likely be absolutely exceptional. He'll probably be near invincible in most areas, kind of like this card last year that came out in March, except better probably. And this card came out in March with near 99 stats across the board. I would assume they give him the ability to dunk too. I would assume his badges are going to be insane. On paper, he's going to look amazing, but he's 5'3", which is going to make him entirely, completely unusable at any sort of sweaty level whatsoever. Now, using him for gameplay will probably be fun, and I am kind of excited about that. But as a whole, this is a pretty mid-spark drop, and I don't think this is a drop that really, again, it gets the blood, gets the juices flowing for very many people, to be honest. So we'll see how good Cat is. If he's really good, it might intrigue some people, but as a whole, I don't think this is an unbelievable drop by any means. With that being said, I hope y'all did enjoy the video, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.